Alright, and welcome to a Magic the Gathering deck tech. In front of me today is a standard deck. The colors are abzan, green, white, and black, and I am titling this one Junk Flagship, as that is what people used to call this color combination. And the key card in it is one of my favorite cards released in Aether Drift, the Valor's Flagship. It is a vehicle that is literally a UFO landing on a city. Love the flavor behind that card, and you'll see that's kind of what we're aiming towards in this deck. So, to start off the early game, we got a playset of Seed of Hope. All my standard decks right now are playing this card. I love it, just a great filtering early game play. 1 mana instant, mill 2, and gain 2 life. Then you may return a permanent from among the mill cards into your hand. So it just helps you filter through your deck, find your lands or your creatures, and fill up your yard. You'll see a similar theme with these early game plays. The other 1-drops I am playing is the Molt Tender, which this 1 mana insect can either tap to mill a card or tap and remove a card from your graveyard to add a mana of any color. So again, right, milling cards, finding our mana, that is going to be our early game. We also have 1 Rumblebolt Maverick here, just another option to card selection, put some cards in the yard, as well as nice if you accidentally mill with your Seed of Hope or Molt Tender or whatnot. You get a little extra value out of this guy. Moving on to the 2s, more rudimentary role fillers here. We have the Einok Wayfarer Dog Scout. When it enters, you mill 3. Then you can pull back a land if you need, and if you don't, you can just make them 1 bigger, give them a +1/+1 counter. Again, milling those cards, throwing them in the yard. Hopefully we can send that flagship to the yard. But what's nice about the flagship, it is cycling. So another similar role filler, Dredger's Insight. As you can imagine, we are going to be milling with this card. It also may incidentally gain some life when we resurrect our big targets later. So yeah, just more role fillers, fill in that yard. We also are playing a Seraphic Steed, which is a pretty fun one. It is a 2 mana 2/2 first strike lifelink with saddle 4. So if you manage to saddle this, you can spawn in an angel when you attack. Yeah. So next we'll move to the 3-drop slot here, in which we have, we'll start, with the Veteran Beast Rider. And you'll see why this card comes in a little later here, but a strong card, 3 mana 3/4. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control. So you basically give your team vigilance, which is pretty sweet. But you'll see some extra synergies come up with that. It also has pay 4 to give an anthem to your team until end of turn. Nice versatile 3-drop here. We're also playing the Skirmish Rhino, a callback to the original Khans of Tarkir Siege Rhino, which is a absolute house back when I was playing Khans of Tarkir, which was a big set for me and my family and friends. So, liking the motif here, liking the callback, and a nice 3-drop to stabilize you to help you get into that late game, which is what this deck is about. It's about that mid to late game. That's where this deck is going to thrive. So you'll see that motif continued here with 3 Debris Beetles, a 4 mana 6/6 trample vehicle. When it enters, just like Siege Rhino, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. This vehicle has a crew 2 to unlock it. So yeah, this one's pretty sweet, as it'll help you stay in the game by gaining that life. And then a 6/6 trample is no joke. And then here, we also have, let's see, we'll go here next. So next in the 5-drop slot, we are playing the Sunmare. Another way to saddle some of our creatures, which you'll see why that is most effective. And it's nice that it can tutor up that Veteran Beast Rider. Or, whatever you may need. Maybe it's a Skirmish Rhino, maybe it's a Seraphic Steed. We're also playing the Agnesar Rex, most importantly for the cycling cost. It is a 5 mana 8/8 trample. but you can cycle it to protect one of your creatures. Okay, so you see, early game, we're milling with our aforementioned Molt Tender, Seed of Hope, Dog Scout. Alright, now we got some cards in the yard, got some making our land drops, not missing that. Now to the most important card to go with the flagship now that our yard is filled up. Back on Track. Now there's a classic 5-mana resurrected creature to the field, but it can also hit a vehicle and it spawns in a pilot. So we're playing 3 of those, as well as a Rite of Moth, as this only hits creatures, but it's pretty nice because it's flashback, so if you mill it, you can still get the value. Back on Track. So this card is pretty sweet with the Valor's Flagship, as when you resurrect the flagship, that's a house right there. 7/7 flying, first strike, lifelink. That's going to do the trick. And you get to make a pilot. So you're already crewing this bad boy. What is also really nice about the flagship is it itself has cycling. So if you draw the flagship, you can cycle it away and then back on track to get it out early. So that's kind of the main idea of this deck, is to resurrect that flagship, and hopefully that 7/7 flying first strike lifelink will carry you to victory, especially if you get it out as early as turn 5. That is kind of the main game plan, but my favorite cards here are actually some Duskmourn cards here, some survival cards. So first we have Kona, Rescue Beastie. So the survival mechanic reads, at the beginning of your second main phase, if this card is tapped, do etc. So Kona here will allow you to summon a permanent for free if survival requirements are met. Rip Spawn Hunter will let you look at the top, usually 4 cards here, for creatures and vehicles with different powers. So you can draw up to 4 cards with Rip. So these 2 survival payoffs are sweet because of your Debris Beetle, your Flagship, your Sunmare, your Seraphic Steed, and my yet to mention Dune Drifter all have crew or saddle to enable these powerful survival payoffs. Yeah, and the more I play with Kona, the more I love it, and it's pretty sweet to, saddle your, or crew up your Debris Beetle and then summon a flagship off of Kona. Just feels great. Also enjoy that I have these sweet Duskmourn art treatments. And to round out some of our resurrection targets, we have the Thundering Broodwagon. Another big vehicle here, but what's nice is when it enters, you get to remove a pesky permanent. So sometimes that is what you're looking for. And the Swarm Weaver here is just a nice Delirium payoff. 2/3. When it enters, you make 2 flying insects. And if you have Delirium, those insects plus -1 and Death Touch. So nice value mid-range card. We round out the list with an Unwanted Remake and a Drag to the Roots as some interaction and removal. And then round it out with some Abzan lands here. Build a mana base how you like. And yeah, that's the build. Some key highlights that I really enjoy. Yeah, the game plan is to resurrect, but what I like about this deck is you can just go to the mid game. You're not all in on the resurrect the flagship, right? Which some reanimator builds in other formats are all in on that reanimation. You can just drop Debris Beetle turn 5. You can, yes, cycle the Rex and reanimate it, or you can just play the Rex as a giant 5-mana 8/8 trample. Same thing here, Swarm Weaver, right? These are nice cards to resurrect, but they're sitting around 4 or 5 mana. You can just hardcast them. Even the flagship's not too far out of reach in some games. This one you're looking to only resurrect with back on track, but, you know, some games you're going to reach there. And so that's what I kind of like about this reanimation build here, is that you can just play the mid game. You know, you're not all in on that reanimation. So yeah, thanks for listening into this deck tech. You know, this deck does some of my favorite things in Magic here. You know, filling up your graveyard. I've really enjoyed seeing the synergies between the saddle and the crew and the survival mechanic. And I'm a big fan of Standard right now with Duskmourn, Aether Drift, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And so this deck is kind of doing a lot of those mechanics. And I'd say this deck probably slides under tier 1 in Standard, but is a fun brew that will definitely catch some wins. And that is the deck tech. Thanks for joining me.